What's up, Descendants? Now, I wanted to talk about something that is just continuously happening in the game, and I feel like the game needs to address this and make this much easier for players to be able to identify. And this is going to be in relevance to your role. Now, I feel like, again, if it wasn't an issue, you wouldn't really be seeing it that often, and especially if you're queuing into public lobbies, you definitely are seeing this quite a bit. And what I'm referring to is the fact that a lot of times, whenever something is shifting, whenever a meta changes, you will see that there will be a significant flux or increase of something. So, like, for example, we basically had like a flux prior to where there was a whole ton of Lepics, right? The one-shot build Lepics were all in Gluttony, right? And again, like I said, it is an amazing build when you are trying to solo certain things by yourself, or if you're in a certain team comp in some of the earlier fights. But when you get to Gluttony, Lepic on the one-shot build is probably the worst build to bring into that fight. Now, again, we're seeing something similar here where now there's been this emphasis of like certain meta things. So you're seeing a whole bunch of Enzos now. You're seeing a whole bunch of Lunas now. And so now you actually have it to where the parties are now queuing in, and there's literally full teams of like, it'll be like 2 Enzos and a Luna and a Valby or something like that. And so they end up not having enough damage because there's just a whole bunch of supports, and there's nothing that's really making that matchmaking better to allow players to get through those fights, or to at least be able to configure and readjust according to what people might have. And I feel like this is something that you can see, and I would even say that the game could allow us to be able to take advantage of with adding a matchmaking system, or at least revamping it to where we can select our roles. Because even for the people that are, say for example, maybe not able to build multiple units, it would allow someone like myself who has multiple units built to be able to adjust to what that person might have so that I can better assist the fight. Because every time that you queue in and it's just random and you get matchmaked with anybody, it's really honestly a higher probability that you're just going to lose the fight. And I think that the other thing is too, is that in conjunction to the company being able to, say, for example, tweak the matchmaking, I feel like we also have to get better at also identifying what works and what doesn't work in some of these fights. And so let's take, for example, Gluttony, okay? Now, Gluttony is a fight where, okay, guys, let's just rip this Band-Aid off. Weapon damage does better in Gluttony, okay? Weapon damage does better there. It is just what it is, okay? I made a video a few days ago and it actually tracked really well. I was not expecting that, but it was a gun build for my Lepic. Because a lot of people go in there, they die, and the more times that you die, the harder you make that fight, right? And the thing is that, of course, when you are going through multiple phases as well, the harder it is to also cool down Gluttony. So there's a lot of things as to why you want to get that fight over as soon and as quick as you possibly can. Now, of course, I want to talk about, and I'm going to have another video just kind of talking about some things that you can do in the Gluttony fight that would make the fight much easier for survival, right? But the first thing here is obviously picking the right builds, okay? So when we're talking about skill-based builds don't work. So if I'm using like my Lepic, for example, like I said, I will use the power unit charge, which changes my skill power to increases firearm attack instead. If I'm using my Blair, so let's swap to my Blair real quick, right? So let's swap to him. I will use, instead of my normal build, which is the Truly Deadly Cuisine, I will swap him over to Backdraft, which does what? It absorption significantly increases weak point damage and firearm attack instead of skill power. These builds, I feel like, or modules get slept on so hard because of the fact that skill power has been basically the main thing that we typically have needed. But when you're looking at the value of what these are going to be bringing to these fights, these are more beneficial. Now, I will say there's one exception to this, and this is the character that I feel like a lot of people are running, but they don't actually know how to play her well enough, and it's Glay, right? So I feel like with Glay is another unit that a lot of people want to run, and yes, her skill power is a thing that actually does affect everything for her. Like, her abilities all affect weapon damage. So it is really important to making sure that she is built properly, but not even just building her properly, but there are certain strategies, like for example, pre-firing against the boss. And I'll kind of talk about that in the next video, but like pre-firing against the boss, there's a lot of things that definitely make her a lot better when you're trying to use her. Targeting the weak points when you're shooting with her, because I see a lot of people trying to emulate those team comps where it's like the triple glay with the Enzo or double glay with a Lavalby and an Enzo, but they're not actually doing the strat correctly, and that's just resulting in like, you know, loss after loss after loss after loss. So it's a lot of different things that you guys are going to have to, you know, kind of tweak, right? Like within your character, especially for those of you guys that are focusing one character, try to find a way for you to make a build that caters more to your guns, right? So I feel like, for example, every character has a skill build, but they also have a gun build that you can take advantage of. And for the gun build, for the most part, which I kind of like, with the exception of, like I said, a couple of characters, you don't need to have a whole bunch of skill power, or skill crit, I should say, skill crit. You can literally make your character more sustainable, and then you go for like, okay, let me put this on them to get the gun properly done. And then, for example, you can pair them with another buffer. So like Enzo goes extremely well with a lot of units, because if he's just boosting their raw capability for gun damage, then he's going to be excellent for that. Whereas you have like Luna, who actually is really good at helping with boosting skill damage, right? So this is something that we have to be more aware of, because even when we see them both paired in a fight, right? So we'll see like it'll queue in a Luna and then an Enzo, but then there's a Glay, right? You're going to be getting more benefit from the Enzo than the Luna. And that's just simply because, you know, on the damage note, he's boosting that firearm attack damage, which is like, you know, a firearm crit and stuff like that, weak point damage. So you get more value from him in that fight. And this is another reason why, like I said, I'm really honestly like really pushing for the fact that we need to have a better matchmaking system, because then this wouldn't be so complicated. And I feel like that's one of the biggest problems that we currently have in matchmaking, is that, right? Like, we are all going in there and no one knows what anyone has, and we can guess. Like, don't get me wrong, I can guess after the fight starts what you're running, or I can see like maybe what guns you're running or how your abilities might look to see what transcendence you might have on. But at that point, we're already in the middle of the fight and it's too late. So I really think that Nexon has to fix that, just to make it easier for people that aren't queuing in with LFGs or don't have squads to run with and they're running public lobbies. Make it to where we can actually identify what builds people are running, so that we can actually help. Now, and this is the other thing too. I don't get why they're trying to prevent like quote unquote bullying, when I'm like, bro, there's all this booty and stuff in this game. This game is definitely for adults. You know, they're not going to be able to control everything. And I'm not going to lie, people get trolled anyway, because we can tell, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you play this game long enough, you're able to tell how much damage someone's doing. You're able to tell, you know, a lot of different things. And I would say that, you know, for at least the players that come from like Destiny, like myself, I actually really like to help people out. I would even say that, like, for those of us that do come from like Destiny, for example, there's a huge, like, the raid culture, right? Like, that was all about, I mean, they even had achievements where we got stuff for helping people in public lobbies to help them achieve raids and stuff like that. So it was something that I feel like, you know, is definitely could be a part of this community. I feel like anytime I'm able to identify that somebody is lacking in an area, outside of the fact that I'm a content creator, even when I was playing Destiny, I wasn't a content creator. So that's just who I am. But I'm able to actually identify and help them out. Be like, hey, bro, you might want to tweak this in your build, or you might want to add this because this will allow you to stay alive longer or do more damage. So I feel like it's also kind of hindsight hurting us at the same time, just collectively. I do get the fact that, yes, there are some trolls and there are people that just take advantage of everything, but I just also feel like you can't control everything. And it's also, again, not allowing us to be able to get the most out of how we're able to compile our teams. And again, if we're even talking about people being like X'd out and like not put into the team comps, people are already doing that and we can't see anything. So I just think that, again, this is the biggest thing that we need to have added into the game. I'm interested in knowing what you guys think. Like, do you guys think that we should have matchmaking that allows us to see more of this stuff, or you guys have other ideas for matchmaking? Because I feel like this is, like, again, how it is. There's just always this random flux, and then it's always like just bad team comps being put together. And if they're emphasizing co-op, we need more, and I would even argue better team comps. So that's basically my whole spiel there. Again, guys, I'm going to have some stuff coming for Gluttony. Just trying to work out certain things with different roles so that you guys can get more concrete information from that. But that's going to be that with this one, guys. Everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.